It's here. It's here. The moment that we've all waited for is finally here. So about a month or two ago, I talked about this show that was in development by Amazon, and that show being the Fallout series. And for those of you who don't know, it's a series that's based off of a video game. And this was something that people kind of were very contentious with, if that's the word. I don't even know if that's the right word to use. This is a show that we heard about a lot but didn't know how it was going to go. Because when we all heard video game TV series, everybody just immediately went like, ugh, gross. I don't want to touch it. Get away from me. And these are all reasonable things to think because we've been plagued with bad adaptations when it comes to video games turning into TV shows or movies or anything in between. Usually the success rate, it's not great. It's actually kind of abysmal. But then last week, the show was finally released and we all battened down the hatches, put on our power armor, and waited. And when it released, I mean, I've got a big smile on my face. I'm very happy with the way that the show went because the show went good. And I have to be, honest right off the bat. I'm not like a big Fallout player. I never really was. But to that point, I've always been appreciative of the story. I always thought that storyline of a post-nuclear war world, I always thought that was a really cool concept, and I feel like the Fallout universe did it very, very well. I'm not big on the lore or the gameplay or anything like that, but I do like the general overall story. And I feel like the show did it extraordinarily well, and I feel like a lot of other people think the exact same thing. So let's start off with the nitty-gritty things about the show. Visually, it's fantastic. When it comes to costumes and stuff like that, even the power armor, which I would have thought would be incredibly difficult to pull off, they managed to do that stuff incredibly well. It's actually mind-boggling to think that it's an actual show made by an actual company. It doesn't look like it's something that's made by some YouTube channel somewhere out there. It looks like an actual fully done production, almost movie level looking stuff. And when it comes to the actual terrain and the sets and everything, that is also done extraordinarily well, and it does fit the actual game and the story that goes with it. So visually the show it's a really impressive thing to see, but then we have to go down to the story. How did the story do? Because as I've said before, it's really the meat and bone, the meat on the bone meat. And it really does determine how the show is going to go. You can have amazing visuals, but if your story is bad, the show is going to be bad. And I'm happy to report that the story was not bad at all. And the reason why, and I talked about this in my last Fallout video, it's because they did something unique, and that's they made their own story within the world. You see, the big problem when it comes to TV show adaptations of video games is that whenever you go to make that TV show, you are more likely going to step on some toes, because you're usually taking the same story that people already know and then altering it so it can fit into a TV series. And usually that has some pretty big consequences. But this time, they decided to make their own story within the same universe, and it managed to fit extraordinarily well. And I think one of the reasons why is because they also did something that no other show has managed to do yet, and that's that they stuck with Bethesda, and Bethesda was actually working really close with them as they were making the show. Whoa. And it really does show. It really does show. And it's kind of baffles me, a little side rant. It really does baffle me that no other TV series has managed to do that yet, or managed to think of doing that yet. Avatar, which is not the same thing, but Avatar almost did the same thing before the original team left. And we got the product that we got, and I think it's blindingly obvious that you could see where the creative differences were with that. But when it comes to the Fallout series, you really don't get that. I just think that the story is incredibly well written, and trying not to get into any spoilers, is basically the main character and her dad gets taken, and she has to leave the vault and go and find him because something bad happened. And then she's out in the big wide world trying to understand the way of the world in Fallout, because she's only lived in a vault for her entire life. Oh, I almost threw up. And I just think that the entire thing was executed incredibly well. There are a couple critiques that I have, but really the main one that I have is pacing. I feel like at the end the pacing started to get a little bit off. I don't know, I just started to feel a little bit rushed at some points, but besides that, I feel like everything else went really well. It started really good in the beginning, and then very slightly, mind you, very slightly started to peter down just a little bit. But at the same time, the end result is just great. And I'd argue also that the results of this isn't really contentious either. If you look at, Rotten Tomatoes and any kind of movie review, it's got very, very high ratings. And I know that, the critic Rotten Tomatoes, it's basically dog crap. Nobody looks at that because it's done by people who think they're better than everybody else. But to that point, we seem to be in the same agreement with the show, which is awesome because nobody likes to have people that think they know better and say that it's bad when it's not bad, or say that it's good when it's not good. Rotten Tomatoes really is something. There's also a big complaint that I saw with people talking about how it compares to the game. And that big thing is that apparently there are some contradictory things between the TV show and Fallout New Vegas, which is one of the games. And while I don't really understand the complete specifics about it, I think that it's a fair assessment, but at the same time, I also think there's plenty of room where they could correct things or, move the story in a different direction, because this was season 1, and I think if they go for another one, which I would implore them to do, they have a lot of wiggle room to do whatever they want with the story. If they want to go back, because they didn't really do anything absurdly drastic, if they want to go back and fix something, I think that they could. If they want to change the story and put it in a different direction, I think they can do that easily, because they didn't butcher it. They didn't listen, these are not the Halo guys, all right? Because holy crap, I don't know how somebody can manage to screw something up to such a degree. It really is baffling. I don't want to talk about Halo anymore. I want to talk about Fallout, and I feel like I've talked a lot about Fallout. And I'm really excited to see what happens in the future. I think that Amazon in general just has a really good hit and miss record when it comes to adapting things. When you look at things like the Fallout series, Invincible, The Boys, things that are adapted from either video games or comics, I feel like that Amazon has always been really, really good at adapting these things and putting it into a TV series. And I feel like they've once again knocked it out of the park with Fallout. Will we get another season? I really hope that we do. I feel like there is a lot of room where they can go with this, because there's a lot to the story. There are a lot of groups, there are a lot of people, and I feel like they can make them be a part of the show without ruining anything lore-wise. Because I feel like that's a big thing that they've really got under the belt, and it's something that I think they need to continue to work at, and that's not messing up the lore. And they haven't to any degree yet, to my knowledge. But I think it's important that they keep it up. I think they need to really put the nose to the grind wheel with that one. And that really is one of the big problems when it comes to adapting TV series from video games and comic books. If you make one wrong step that's significant enough to change the story, you're screwed. You can't do anything. It's hard to put the cat back in the bag. And they haven't done it yet, to my knowledge, but I just think they have to, keep working at it and making sure that they don't do anything too drastic. And I think that with Bethesda behind them and working close with them, I don't think that it's going to happen. I think the odds of that happening are really, really low. And if it does happen, I do think some blame would have to go to Bethesda on that one. Just, you're there, you're watching, you're looking after the kids as they play with your $1,000 million glass ball. The kids are playing with your china, so if it breaks, Bethesda, you should have been watching. You should have known what they were doing. And that's not to say that's going to happen either. I think that they have a really good thing going for them, and I think that, just round of applause for them. I'm really happy with the stuff they did. And, I've got a big smile on my face because I really thought that this was going to maybe not be the best. I know I said that it looks good in the video I made previously, and I still hold to that. I just didn't know if it was going to be great. And I'd argue that this show, it's pretty great. It's a pretty great show to watch, and I would recommend watching it. Why don't you try it? It's good. And if there's a next season coming, well, good luck to you. You deserve it. But that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, if indeed you still are. My name is Brockster, and I bid you all adieu.